It didn't seem, and Paul was so natural and relaxed, and he enjoyed it, and we knocked it out really quick.
A single photograph can rearrange a lifetime. For Mick Jagger, the man whose silhouette has been stitched into the visual grammar of rock and roll for more than half a century, that photograph felt like an avalanche. It was not violent, so much as clarifying. A public man rendered in public light, his features edited by time, and what a lifetime of motion does to skin, posture, and expression. Fans felt the jolt because they were not only seeing a face, they were seeing a ledger of nights, flights, triumphs, and private reconciliations that the high gloss of celebrity sometimes smooths over. What makes the image haunting is not cruelty. It's the cognitive dissonance between expectation and reality. For decades, Jagger's image operated as a talisman. Youth and danger bottled into a grin, a curving hip, a lyric tossed like a dare. To see that talisman age is to confront the assumption that art grants a kind of immortality. Responses online ranged from reverence to a soft, embarrassed pity. Many viewers expressed gratitude for being allowed to witness a legendary life in an unvarnished moment. The photograph did not arrive out of nowhere. It appeared during a season of visible public appearances, a surprise walk-on at the 2025 Academy Awards among them. Moments that reminded the world the man behind the eye. Legend still chooses to show his face in public. That juxtaposition, theatrical moment plus intimate close-up, is what made the photograph feel less like a gossip snapshot and more like a cultural mirror. Social media did what it always does: amplify, annotate, and turn private looks into public conversations. Longtime fans posted memories of stadiums and first concerts. Younger listeners shared covers and collaborations that demonstrated how his influence keeps moving forward. The photograph forced a conversation not only about age, but about stewardship. Who gets to tell an icon's story once that icon chooses to appear in a new register? This film begins at that fracture, not to gawk, but to listen. That photograph is a doorway into the larger story of a performer who built an image of endless motion and now must negotiate presence with the ledger of time. We will move backward to the formative years and forward into the choices of an artist whose work still pulses in the cultural bloodstream. The photograph is the prompt. The life is the answer. Michael Philip Jagger was born in Dartford, Kent, on July 26, 1943, into a Britain still assembling the quiet grammar of peacetime. The facts are simple and important. A working-class boy with an appetite for music would grow into a figure whose image helped define modern pop culture. The earliest performances happened far from arenas, school recitals, local halls, and packed pubs. But those small rooms were rehearsal for something larger, a practice field where the instincts of a performer sharpened. Meeting Keith Richards was not a lightning strike so much as a slow alignment of taste, temperament, and timing. One brought the groove, the other a conversational phrasing that could make a lyric sound like a provocation. Together they turned American blues into something distinctly British and defiantly modern. The chemistry that made the Rolling Stones into a band of global consequence was hard-won. Awkward rehearsals, scrapped songs, and years of touring under conditions that taught economy and showmanship in equal measure. The band's early reputation was forged as much in scandal as in records. Headlines about wild nights, high-profile romances, and courtroom dramas gave the Stones an outlaw aura at a time when cultural rules still felt strict. Yet behind the tabloid mythology there was craft. Songs like Satisfaction and Paint It Black were crafted responses to the world's discontent and desire. They moved beyond catchy hooks into emotional shorthand for a restless generation. Sustaining. That velocity demanded adaptability. Jagger learned how to recompose himself across decades, solo experiments, collaborations outside the Stones, and an evolving stagecraft that kept performances vital even as the musical environment shifted. The face that fills arenas in the 21st century is both continuity and evolution, the result of decades of practice, reinvention, and the hard lessons of life on the road. Understanding this arc, from a Dartford boy to a global stage presence, helps explain why a single photograph at 82 lands so emphatically. It interrupts the assumption of stasis that fans and critics sometimes rely on, but it also invites a more generous take. A long career yields a rich, messy archive, a collection of songs, choices, missteps, and triumphs that no picture can fully contain. The image provokes us to look beyond surface judgment into the narrative that made that face conceivable in the first place. If Jagger's art was kinetic, his body has always been the instrument. He turned movement into language, a hip thrust as punctuation, an arch of the shoulder as emphasis. For decades, audiences learned to read his gestures as if they were part of the lyric. That level of physical performance exacts a price. Years of touring, the physical choreography of stadium shows, and the constant reanimation of a youthful persona accumulate as no single rehearsal bill can measure. That price became sharply visible with the intervention of major medical care. In the period that followed his high-profile years, Jagger underwent a heart valve replacement that required postponing major tour plans and a period of recovery. The surgery, as reported at the time, was successful, but it also put into the public record the simple fact that even the most electric performers are beholden to the blunt mechanics of medicine. That moment reframed conversations about stamina, endurance, and the obligations of live shows. Recovery after such procedures is a slow, relational process. It involves physiotherapy, cardiovascular work, and the humility of incremental gains. The first longer morning walk, the small taste of regained breath while rehearsing a phrase. For someone whose craft fused voice and motion, regaining trust in the body is as much psychological as it is physical. How do you ask an instrument to respond in the same idiom when it has been rewired by surgery? For many artists, the answer is recalibration, shorter sets, a focus on studio work, or carefully curated guest appearances that conserve energy while maintaining visibility. These adaptations reflect both personal limits and cultural changes. The industry learns, too. Promoters, agents, and collaborators find new ways to present elder artists in forms that protect health without stripping dignity. What emerges is a new choreography of presence, one that honors both the music and the life that produces it. For fans, that reframing encourages compassion, to value the music without insisting it arrive in the exact physical packaging of the past. The press thrives on tidy stories. A sudden cancellation, a worrying rumor, a short-lived headline. Yet reality is stubbornly untheatrical. Jagger's medical history became fodder for speculation whenever a date was postponed or a red carpet appearance was skipped. In the rumor economy, fear travels quickly and nuance often lags behind. That environment complicates recovery because private processes, doctor's instructions, staged rehab, careful pacing, are interpreted as spectacle. True recovery is granular, measured in incremental returns of movement, slow extensions of endurance, and the painstaking rebuilding of confidence. It's the physiotherapy sessions that go unreported, the small victories that never trend but are deeply meaningful. For someone whose signature is motion, that slow rematch with one's own instrument can be humbling and clarifying. The work of rehabilitation is perseverance more than heroism. A daily insistence on small thresholds that, over time, add up. Support networks matter. Every comeback is scaffolded by medical teams, trusted collaborators, caregivers, and family. Fame makes the endpoint visible, but the hard labor of getting there is usually invisible. Scheduling, logistics, quiet pleas to rest when the impulse is to perform. That infrastructure, medical, logistical, emotional, is central to resilience. For an artist like Jagger, visible magnetism is sustained by invisible care. Practically, adapting may mean opting for a theater tour over stadiums, leaning into studio projects, or curating selective performances that highlight voice and storytelling rather than athletic display. Fans can help by reframing expectations, applauding, reinvention instead of demanding replication of the past. The result is a new kind of artistry where presence is negotiated with prudence and longevity becomes the art form. There is a peculiar kind of clarity that public ceremonies afford. They let an artist be seen in a single theatrical gesture. In 2025, Jagger's surprise appearance at the Academy Awards was exactly that kind of moment. A veteran performer stepping into a ceremonial space, causing the cameras to reorient and audiences to recalibrate what appearance means for an artist in late life. The Oscars cameo was showmanship, yes, but it also functioned as a public calibration of presence and power. In the same arc of visibility, headlines flowed about a deepening relationship with longtime partner Melanie Hamrick and talk of engagement in some outlets. Those stories predictably illuminated the age gap narrative and the celebrity rituals surrounding public commitment. But beneath the flash is a simpler human story. An older person seeking companionship and the comfort of deep partnership. Engagement speculation is loud, often reductive, but it also reframes the story of an artist, not only as a performer, but as a person making life choices that prioritize intimacy and care. Social media amplified both spectacle and tenderness. Birthday posts and curated images circulated, allowing fans to witness celebratory moments that sometimes read as carefully managed public-facing gestures and sometimes as genuine private glimpses. Those posts, whether authored by the artist or shared by close friends, became part of the cultural conversation, artifacts for think pieces, and more importantly, signifiers of the human impulse to mark milestones publicly. These public episodes expose attention. Celebrity manufactures moments, but those moments also help artists narrate private transitions in a way the public can witness. For fans, this raises a question. Do we treat such glimpses as mere spectacle, or do we allow them to be acts of personal declaration? The answer affects how we receive not only images, but the people within them. Mick Jagger's personal life resembles many long-lived, high-profile careers, layered, complex, sometimes messy, and often misunderstood. Fatherhood arrived at multiple stages of his life, producing obligations and relationships that age with him. Those bonds reframe the experience of getting older. They transform a public career into a set of private responsibilities that must be negotiated with care. Children, aging parents, and long-term friendships alter priorities and create a web of commitments that any late-life planning must acknowledge. For artists who have traveled a lifetime, the recalibration toward family often requires practical restructuring. Fewer months on the road, more selective projects, and a close attention to logistics and emotional labor. The choice to formalize a relationship, to accept public celebration of a partnership, is also a statement about what one values in a season of life. It signals that companionship and care are not trivial, but central considerations for someone who has spent much of his adult life in motion. Those private dimensions spill into creative practice. Conversations at the kitchen table can yield lyrical turns. Late-night rehearsals can become mentorship sessions for younger musicians. Some elder artists turn inward and produce music that is quiet and reflective. Others harness new mediums, producing, curating, archiving, to shape their legacy on their own terms. For Jagger, the interplay of private life and public art will likely continue to inform what he creates next. Finally, privacy becomes precious. The photograph that launched this documentary captures one public frame. What it cannot capture are the unseen negotiations, the medical consultations, the late-night phone calls, the gentle pressings of a family that loves a complicated life. Respecting those quiet corners is part of humane fandom. To appreciate the work without insisting upon perpetual access to the soul behind it, icons perform the marvelous cultural trick of reflecting a generation's desires back to it. Jagger has done that in ways that are musical, stylistic, and cultural. Swaggering bravado became, for millions, a model of rebellion and possibility. But reflections distort, nostalgia narrows. The photograph that sparked this film is part of a broader cultural reckoning. How do we hold myth while allowing the maker of myth to become human? Society invents rituals to manage these tensions. Anniversary tours, deluxe reissues, archival documentaries, and curated retrospectives are institutionalized forms of remembrance that let fans participate in a shared story. These rituals are partly about commerce, partly about memory, and largely about community, ways to preserve the excitement of the past while creating new frames to receive it. Jagger's continued presence in public life participates in these rituals, inviting new listeners to the catalog and offering older listeners a chance to re-examine their attachments. There is also an ethical question. How much of an icon's life is public property? The appetite for images that index decline is not morally neutral. Fans who demand constant proof of vitality are complicit in shaping a cultural script that privileges perpetual motion over careful longevity. A more generous posture would be to allow elders in the public eye to choose reinvention over replication, to let legacy be generative rather than fossilized. Myth is flexible. The same audience that once lionized boundless youth can, with attention, reframe the story as endurance and adaptation. The cracks in an icon's image can become evidence of depth, the record of a life spent fully. If we insist on seeing only decline, we flatten that record. If we accept the person before us, the myth remains but with a richer shape. If the photograph that unsettled some viewers is the opening chord of a late chapter, the rest of the composition is not yet written. At 82, Mick Jagger faces choices. Few artists get to confront publicly, continue touring at great physical cost, retreat into privacy, or reinvent how presence and influence are expressed. Art offers many routes beyond the stadium. Production, curation, collaboration, mentorship, and archival projects all permit continued cultural engagement without the physical toll of nightly high-energy performances. Recent patterns among elder artists point to hybrid models, selective performances, guest appearances, studio collaborations that blend experience with youthful innovation, and archival releases that recontextualize a catalog for new listeners. These approaches honor both legacy and life, allowing a musician's influence to remain active while respecting the limitations that time imposes. For Jagger, such strategies would conserve the essence of his contribution, the songs, the spirit, the risk, while allowing him to participate on terms that protect health. The photograph's power is its insistence that we not mistake image for essence. The most generous response from fans is twofold, aesthetic and ethical. Aesthetically, keep listening. Let the songs travel and find new ears. Ethically, offer space. Allow older artists the dignity to decide how they will remain present. The final measure of legacy is not a single photograph, but an ongoing conversation, propagated through music, mentorship, and the younger artists who carry forward an influence. In short, icons age, songs endure. The haunting image is not a closing curtain, but a summons. To listen more closely, to honor a lifetime of work, and to let the music be the principal record of a life lived boldly. Mick Jagger at 82 is not a punchline or a spectacle. He's a living archive. That viral photograph did what good art often does. It made us look more carefully. It invited questions about mortality, artistry, and how we, as fans and humans, treat the people who soundtracked our lives. If the image unsettled you, let it be an opening. To revisit the records, to read the stories with patience, and to consider what sustaining a life in the public eye actually costs. If you found this deep dive meaningful, help the channel keep making cinematic documentaries like this one. Hit subscribe, smash like to support the video, and leave a comment below with your first Mick Jagger memory or what song you think best captures his legacy. Tell us, which moment in his long career moved you most? Your comments help shape future episodes. We read them, we respond, and we build the next story from the conversation.